attending school, finding a job, putting in a lot of effort, saving money, paying off debt, and investing for the long term in the stock market are the ideas that are completely out of date. When they are printing trillions of dollars, it is hard to see why you would want to save money. There is a significant disparity between the 1% and the 99%. I see that it's not only about the money. It is necessary for you to take a step back and examine the wider picture. So what exactly do you do? You all have a poor person within us at some point. Despite my best efforts, I'm still a poor person. Another individual belongs to the middle class, and the individual who belongs to the middle class desires safety. Their goal is to have a consistent income. Also, there is a wealthy individual. Not only are all of them present within us, but we are not taught about them. If you are taught to go to school, acquire a job, and earn a paycheck, then you are not taught how to get wealthy. If you are a wealthy father, you are a poor father. My wealthy father did not pay me. It was his opinion that the paycheck was one of the most detrimental things that one could accept in their lifetime. As soon as you receive a paycheck, he explains, you are considered an employee. And that is the mentality that applies. You see, my wealthy father never paid me. He took my poor father who worked for the government to the point of insanity. Those who are owed money must be paid, and you must pay them. And Rich Dad was not implying that the pay was not satisfactory in any way. He claims that he did not want to be a slave to financial success. Consequently, as an entrepreneur, if Rich Dad went out of business, I would just launch another business. No, I do not require a paycheck. I am not in need of someone to look after me by any means. Whenever my government does not approve of me, I will relocate to another nation. For the reason that they required business owners there. As a result, the entrepreneur is not the same thing as the businessman. In essence, the mindsets, skill sets, and multiple sets of norms that define an entrepreneur are what make up the entrepreneur. You see, I am not in the business of operating, and the regulations that govern how a small business operates are different from those that govern a large business. First and foremost, becoming an entrepreneur requires a mindset as well as a set of skills and principles. The restrictions also vary for employees and small businesses, depending on whether you are an employee or a small firm. The mindsets are different, the skill sets are different. If you're talking to someone who has never been an entrepreneur before, but is considering taking the plunge into the world of entrepreneurship, you can say one thing to them. In any case, they'll just tell them the same idea that occurred to me. When I think back to my most recent paycheck, I can still recall it quite clearly. That day was both one of the worst and one of the best of my whole life. Furthermore, I was in Puerto Rico. Yes, I was there and I was employed by Xerox. On top of that, my manager handed me my final check. My guess is that it was somewhere around 30,000. The only issue with it is that it is subject to taxation. Now, that I had this check, I thought to myself, holy MG, do you understand what I mean? So I was thrilled, but at the same time, I was apprehensive. This second guy, whose name was John, then approaches me and introduces himself. It is John who tells me that you are going to return. He says this to me. I asked, why is that? He advises, because you are going to be unsuccessful. Look, there are a few expletive words I murmured to him as I stared at him. Simply because he acted in that manner. He left Xerox, failed, and he came back. I said, look, you failed and you came back, but I'm going to fail and I'm never coming back. And that's the mindset. If you say, well, if I fail, I'll go back to mother and daddy, then that's what you'll do. So if you fail, that's when I became an entrepreneur, because I had no money. I had no money for years. I didn't have a paycheck, but that's what my affluent dad urged me to do, is when you don't have this paycheck, you get hungrier, smarter, and it's a test of your character. Should you become a criminal? Have you decided to become dishonest? Are you willing to steal and cheat? Alternately, do you intend to improve as a human being? To put it another way, this is the advantage of setting up shop as an entrepreneur. During times when you are without anything, you are able to discover who you truly are. It is imperative that you always keep the big picture in mind. What are you going to do to me? Is a question that a lot of individuals ask themselves. When you take a step back and look at the bigger picture, you will also begin to see that even when something negative occurs, something positive is going to take place. However, you need to get ready for whatever is going to happen. And if you think that the next 20 years will be the same as the previous 20 years, you are going to be shocked. You should know that whenever you and I go to the grocery store and purchase a carton of milk, we always make sure to check the date that the milk is expiring. On the other hand, the vast majority of people do not consider the expiration date of their brains. I am unable to get out of debt, so I am accumulating more debt. I just refinanced debt totaling $300 million. Interest rates dropped from 5% to 2.5%. My wealth was enormous. As a result of the decrease in the cost of money, I am receiving a greater amount of money each month. Consequently, while there are some financial gurus who advise getting out of debt, I am advising learning how to make use of debt. In January of 1973, when I returned from my trip to Vietnam, my wealthy father was the first person to tell me that I should enroll in a school to learn how to put money into real estate investments. The issue was not real estate, rather it was the management of debt and taxes. The wealthy reap the benefits of debt and taxation. The poor and the middle class are made further impoverished by debt and taxation. Therefore, all of the wealthy men who are lawyers, doctors, or other professionals like that are earning a lot of money and they have no idea why they're getting it. Physicians are being smeared with cream. Yes, they do make him more money, but the amount that he actually gets to keep is lower, certainly. You should know that. My physician just yelled at me and he was beaming with joy as he said, "Oh, guess what? I finally made $1 million." And I answered, "Well, this was just 3 weeks ago." And then I asked, well, how much you paying tax? He claims that he paid $750,000 in taxes, which means that his net income was approximately $400,000. This is not a bad thing, but when I make $1 million, I like to keep $1 million for me. In addition, the reason for this is that I do not make a living by working for money. As you can see, if you labor for money, you are subject to taxation. Therefore, this is the reason why the first lesson in Rich Dad, those that are wealthy do not have to labor for their wealth. Instead, we engage in the process of establishing enterprises as owners and operators. We are in the business of purchasing real estate. Investing in the stock market is not something I should do. Due to the fact that I am an entrepreneur, I have a greater degree of control over my income, both the amount that I make and the amount of taxes that I pay back. My tax liability is completely non-existent due to the fact that I am both a business and an investor in real estate. To put that into perspective, once I made $1 million as an entrepreneur, I immediately put that money into real estate investments. A 4-to-1 step up is available to me. Consequently, I received $4 million from the bank after investing $1 million in real estate. This is the reason why I adore banks. However, the banks are taking advantage of everyone else. Don't you think? What a terrible thing. On the other hand, it's beneficial to me. The reason you think that printing is beneficial to you is because you believe that it is beneficial to you, but that it is detrimental to individuals who work for money. The reason for this is that when you print, individuals who save money and people who labor for money both get creamed over. As a result of printing, debtors become wealthy. It is clear that debt and taxes are a source of wealth for the wealthy, while they are a source of poverty for the middle class and the poor. When we have ideas that are no longer relevant, we end up with results that are no longer relevant. Therefore, what is happening for the majority of people is the concept of going to school, finding a job, working hard, saving money, getting out of debt, purchasing a house because it is an asset, and investing for the long term. It is no longer relevant. It is no longer the same world. As a result of President Nixon's decision to remove the United States from the gold standard in 1971, the globe underwent a transformation. What if we never went to school again? Afterward, what would take place? Would it be preferable if there was no educational system at all? I am not saying that education is less important than it was before. Simply put, it is no longer relevant. As you are aware, there is a law known as Moore's Law, which states that the amount of information doubles every 16 months. To put it another way, everything is out of date after 18 months. This is a relatively new phenomenon, so to speak. So by the time you graduate from high school, you will already be out of date. Because of this, I am the older of the two. To tell you the truth, I encounter my buddies who attended Harvard. To be clear, I attended Harvard, I see, so it was 50 years ago, wouldn't you say? You are currently being charged interest by the banks in order to save money. To put it another way, the banks are not interested in your money because, as I said in here, savers are losers and cash is trash. And yet people, well, I want a high-paying job. Well, that's an obsolete idea. Get out of debt is an obsolete idea. You should learn how to get into debt, how to use debt to get rich. And they'll never teach you about taxes. The reason the 1% is way up here and the 99% are going this way is because when you print money, two things happen. Inflation and taxes. It's crushing. And any entrepreneur who believes, I'm just going to earn money, I'm going to build a business and make a lot of money because of what we talk about, they really have got to smell the roses, dude. You know, that's not what the genuine entrepreneurs are doing. Most entrepreneurs, there's 28 million small company owners in America. 24 million are one-person entrepreneurs. They're termed non-employee entrepreneurs. So that and that's what occurs is when people don't truly comprehend what an entrepreneur does. Even though the majority of wealthy people are self-employed, they are not considered to be entrepreneurs. Those who are self-employed are the ones who pay the greatest taxes. You won't hear that from anyone. The enterprising spirit is another name for this characteristic. In point of fact, however, what we were discussing was the fact that there is no such thing as a corrupt economy. As you are aware, there is an external economy, and both you and I, as well as everyone else, have one. On the other hand, we also boast an internal economy. In addition, the capability to alter our internal economy is the willpower. I am able to recognize both the positive and negative aspects of the situation. It doesn't really matter to me because I'm going to be wealthy regardless of what happens. On the other hand, a person who is poor and has a weak personal economy would only see a terrible economy since they are unable to learn how to generate money in any economy. The economy there is one of the middle class. You are aware that what they desire is a lovely home and a reliable source of income, as well as the work and the car. It is a catastrophe if you take away the employment, since it is quite important to them. To be honest, it's not a big concern because an entrepreneur doesn't have a job in the present moment. I'm trying to convey to people that Bucky Fuller showed me that there are always two sides to every story. Do you get what I'm saying? Unity is a plural, or at the very least two. Therefore, if you believe that the economy is down, it is because your own economy is down. It is possible that you may observe an economy that is devoid of employment if you believe that employment is of significant importance. Contrast your economy with the economy of the outside world. Contrast what you can control. I am able to exercise control. And this is what is known as an internal focus as opposed to an exterior emphasis. Therefore, the true entrepreneur is someone who has an internal concentration, but if they fail, they say to themselves, oh, this is good because I'm going to go as high as I can. As you probably already know, the typical individual will collapse and say, oh, I'm going to take some mistakes. Alternatively, somebody has made a mistake. It makes no difference how many mistakes you make. Mistakes, it's important to make mistakes. What it signifies is that you are unaware of anything. But a true entrepreneur, regardless of how they fall down, they always have the ability to get back up again. They are able to get back up and continue up higher. They continue to improve in terms of strength, quality, intelligence, and happiness, regardless of what happens to them. Nevertheless, the characteristic of a person who has a weak internal thinking is that they are so terrified of what happens that it usually occurs. People who are terrified of losing their jobs are more likely to leave their jobs than those who are not afraid of losing their jobs. You understand what I mean? You are the conduit through which everything flowed.